One thing that we did want to talk about is actually the state of the economy. Earlier this week, it was reported that that around 50,000 jobs were added to the economy. This is actually one of the lowest hiring years outside of COVID, and since the recession of 2008. It's basically since around 2003, the fewest jobs have been added to the economy. There's probably a lot of reasons for that, but one thing especially that continues to be concerning are that there are actually fewer entry level positions for recent college graduates. The unemployment rate currently is at around 4.4%. According to CNBC, the unemployment rate around those who have actually just graduated from college is double that and some. It's around 10.8. So there's a lot of reasons for that. Obviously, it's AI, it's tariffs, but overall, Henry, what do you think about that? Because I think that has to go with, I think, what you have been hitting the drum on in terms of wages, how the economy is changing. So there are less people actually getting started in the workforce with college.
That's not none of them not accurate. Like nobody, like if you have a job, you better hold on to
Hold
that
on to
job
it.
with your
Yeah.
greatest strength. Because when you speak of AI, uh, it's in it's a small number of people, especially Black minority people, that go to college and get an education. So when they enter the workforce, it's typically through a retail warehouse, some type of space like that. I don't industrial, maybe
Mhm.
that's the correct classification space, which in case those jobs tremendously are being attacked by AI. So that then leaves a large pool of people to figure out how am I going to make ends meet or how am I going to make a better means for myself and be sustainable, which then even people with bachelor's degrees or like Trump just unclassified nurses and so many other professions as not being professional. So it's just a lot of things happening to where you can say these jobs are open, but how many people are actually like solidifying these jobs and sustaining those jobs for maybe 6 months plus 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, and I think you hit it right on the head is that there's and this is where I think it's even, there needs to be, always bringing it back to politics. I think there needs to be just more of a focus on how companies are actually using AI, in terms of like, obviously, hey, we were sold these tools as things to help us lighten our load, make us smarter, make us work more efficiently. But what happens when it's just literally just taking people literally? It's not actually help. It's just helping you reduce staff, not actually make your staff work better, work smarter.
I
And yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think you just hit it on the head for two reasons. How the I don't. I maybe seen a little bit of legislation. However, I need Congress to put ethics and rules
Hmm.
behind this.
Yeah.
To your point of how businesses are using it, because it should not be used to replace a job. It should be used to enhance
Yeah.
and make the job more efficient. And to the second point, if I'm a CEO, my main thing is ROI, return of investment. So if I can invest into this, I literally lost a contract to
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
So if I want to be transparent, if you've been watching podcasts, you know I do digital marketing, brand
Hmm.
strategy, dive into analytics, so on and so forth. A client presumed that AI would be more efficient than paying me, which no shade to that client when you listen to this, because I hope you are subscribed, but they're not. One, a lot of people are not really feeling. That's the best terminology I can come up.
Hmm.
User generated content has more engagement. It has higher conversion rates.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the whole fallacy of AI is that it's the difference of you can tell when something actually has a human fingerprint on it. It's a thing that you can't quantify or describe, but you know it when you see it. It can
Exactly.
read things that a language model cannot. It can pick up on feel.
Exactly.
And
And then
yeah,
AI is not always correct. And then I do
no.
like that. Like it was California, if I'm not mistaken,
Hmm.
California and New York.
Yeah, both, I think.
They put some type of
Guardrails.
around the use of AI and how it's propagated through work. especially let's say like when the writer's strike happened.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think there needs to be regulation around AI. Very, like it needs to. Like you
Yeah,
can't.
no, it
Yeah,
has to
because
be
a
because
lot of jobs encourage it. Also, the use of AI.
yeah, and I think that to me is like, and once again, even having that regulation, there is a fine line on that. But even then, it's like, are we then going to look back 10 years from now and say, actually, this thing that we thought was helping us actually just like screwed everything up? And I think we're increasingly just getting to that point to where I think more people are saying, I don't need to hire the people, I don't need to hire any entry level people today in 2026. But then guess what? When you want to hire mid-level people, you're going to realize I have no one at my company who I can hire because I don't have that many people here anymore. And then you're creating a problem that I think is going to increasingly span further up. So I think to your point, Henry, I think what we're going to see is that this is good now because it's largely for the people who are making money, the people who are middle career, not entry level. They're saying, well, this is only hurting those people at the bottom, as you said, Henry, those kind of those industrial jobs, those lower, as they classify, quote unquote, in air quotes for people who are not watching us on YouTube. They're usually classified as lower skilled jobs. This is only impacting those folks today. But what happens when all of a sudden AI, more AI stuff gets figured out, and it all of a sudden impacts that middle
I'm a
management?
mid-level professional, and I just told you how
Yeah.
it's affecting
Right.
me.
And I think to your point, it's going to keep creeping up and up to where the question is then going to be, yeah, we don't need these five entry level people. Actually, we can cut the people who are managing it, who are managing those people by half now. And it's going
You
to
don't
keep
think that's
creeping
happening
up and
already?
up until I think we realize like actually this is not, and to your point, I think this is actually why we need to focus on the businesses. The businesses are doing this because it is just going to make them more profit. And it needs to be asked.
You
Go ahead.
you don't think companies are already cutting positions like mid-level positions out?
I think so.
Uh,
I think
okay,
so, but they're not going to be honest about it.
okay.
You would never
That's why
say,
I
"Hey,
said
we're
these
cutting a
numbers are
thousand."
fallacy. That's why I said these numbers are fallacy.
Yeah,
These numbers are not real.
and I think this is like we should probably actually have like, and we need to figure out like an AI person that we can actually like talk to because this is like a whole rabbit hole. But I even think like if you follow it a little bit, there's so much money being invested in these AI companies like Microsoft, Nvidia with the chips, OpenAI. Companies are investing like billions upon billions of dollars in them. And these companies who are investing in it are expecting a return somewhere. And to your point, Henry, where is that return going to come from outside of just, in large part, reducing staff? I don't know how you're getting to certain places and saying we as a company are going to invest 50 million dollars into, artificial intelligence, and that will come at both, allowing us to have insights that humans cannot provide, but also we don't need as many people doing this because we have this thing that we just invested all this money in. So we're going to put more stock into this as opposed to the 50 people who are doing this job. And to your point, I don't know how Congress can force companies to say exactly like, hey, what are you actually doing with this? Um,
Why don't you think Congress can force them to do that? Because we
I think they can
have,
bring them to testify. I don't think I mean, anybody can figure out an answer without actually providing an answer. I think you can make people look bad, which I think people need to be embarrassed.
well, I guess I was more so going down the route of like, excuse me, Congress can push out legislation to protect like privacy rights, data rights,
Yes, they
so
can.
on and so forth. And then they can also push out legislation that controls how and the practice of it.
Hmm.
That's then when you have lawsuits and a legislative system that will be in place that will hold these companies accountable. That's where I I get. I've seen something where it was like anybody in Congress should not have stock.
I agree.
I agree because if you're making policies on companies that you're in bed with, then it's not gonna protect
Yeah.
anybody interest that you're on. So
Or just
like
you have just more access to information just by the proxy of your job.
that. So with that being the case, I don't see any. major legislation being pushed against AI,
Mhm.
which, to your point, a lot of companies are getting in bed with AI, which a lot of these congressional people own stock in these companies that are getting in bed with AI. So they're not pushing back because they know they're going to get a return,
Yeah.
which that's then the problem because if you're there representing the American people and for what's better, like these data centers, why aren't we pushing legislation to limit or even stop them from being built within so many miles of an actual population of people? Because the toxins and what it produces into the air, so on and so forth. So it's just it's annoying to see how effed up the system is, especially when they try to inflate these numbers to make it seem like the economy is doing this good or that
Mhm.
well or whatever. When in real time we know that people are not hiring, and
Stuff
AI
is
is
getting
taking.
more expensive because of, and this gets to the next topic, tariffs. Like